Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be talking about domestic violence. Now, I'm not talking about anything as far as any personal experience goes, but I'm just wanted to share my thoughts on this because this is an issue, of course, that is, I would say, I don't know if the right word is prevalent, but it's it figures very prominently in the United States as far as, volatile situations go. Now, according to Wikipedia.org, the domestic violence, the incidences were on average, they said between 960,000 or something and 3 million. Now, it's kind of a very broad range. So, yeah, let's say you put the middle numbers about 2 million. If even 2 million is indeed, of course, would be a very exorbitant number, and that would be a vast understatement. Well, most of you know, domestic violence is, of course, you're talking about, people inflicting harm on others that are, family members. I would say domestic violence, domestic meaning it's the home, generally would occur in the home, I would say. Now, these are, and family members in the house are obviously people in the home, family members involved. I would say it's more about your actual, relatives would be involved. But I'm sure, you have situations that are contentious with people that may not necessarily be related to each other in a home. But I believe when you're talking about domestic violence, it's focusing more on people that are related in the home. But you may want to check and confirm that part of it, that aspect of it. But anyway, because I'm not sure about that 100%. But anyway, you're talking about, people that are involved in these situations, and it's sad because when people are in a domestic violence situation and they're the ones being battered by somebody abusive, I would say more often than not it's the man hitting the women. I'm not saying the women. I'm sure there's a lot of instances where you have the women inflicting harm on men, but I would guess that it's probably more about the man than the women. Men tend to be a little bit more aggressive anyway, and they're more about physical violence more so than I would say women on average. But women still will inflict harm on men from time to time, but I just don't think it's as frequent as the other way around. The men, see, these situations, they're, again, I was looking online in terms of on Wikipedia, and it said some of the states were Tennessee, New Mexico, Virginia, where these were more prevalent for whatever reasons. Now, when you allow yourself, if you're in a situation and you're being physically abused by somebody, and you let it happen continually, repeatedly, and it's done very persistently to you, sadly, you're essentially, I see it as like condoning it, basically. You're saying, okay, this is okay, you can keep doing it. Now, I understand a lot of times if a woman especially is in this kind of a situation and they've been beaten repeatedly and repeatedly, they don't make any calls to the authorities. They keep allowing it to happen. Say these things generally are going to escalate. They're going to ascend before they actually get worse, people. And I'm just, I'm saying this. I know most people, I'm not going to get many views on this. This channel does not get an overabundance of views, not like my YouTube astrology channel, but this is something that needs to be addressed, and I hope those of you out there that have this do share this with people if they are involved in a situation where they're being hurt, they're being brutalized, they're being hit repeatedly. Arms are meant for hugging, they're not meant for punching and hurting others with. If somebody is caustic with you or says something sarcastic, it doesn't give you a right to bludgeon them, to hit the person. The thing about it is, too, what I think happens in a lot of these cases, too, the women out there, the ones that are getting abused, and they do, a lot may actually try to extricate themselves from the situation. What happens in some cases, though, I think they go into like a battered women's shelter. They think they're getting some reprieve, and then they say, how long do I really want to stay here? And then ultimately a number of them will go right back to where they were before, and they're setting themselves up to just get hurt even more and more and more. Sadly, you have some men out there that will hit women and think it's a form of domination. I think what happens is it gives them this sort of power. I don't know if any of this may stem from their early childhood. Some cases it could be attributed to a mental illness. Anybody that is repeatedly, they're in a domestic situation, in a contentious one, and they keep repeatedly hitting a woman, something obviously isn't right. At the very least, they need anger management. But the problem is a lot of these men, I guess they're too proud to acknowledge they have an issue or that they need help. It could be a case where people might be prescribed some medication and they're simply not taking it for whatever reasons. Whether, again, that could be pride, whether they think they don't need it. Maybe they don't want to be ordered or dictated by somebody to take it. But there's a lot of acrimonious energy that goes on with this. There's something where these people obviously need some kind of assistance. And the thing is, sometimes people may go to, try to find reconciliation through some mediator. They may go to a marriage counselor if the two people are indeed married. But the thing about it is, what happens is, especially in the case the woman comes back to the man after it's already transpired, after she's already been beaten. Well, what happens is then, women have to realize that they're going to be under that person's auspices and control at that point in time. It could be a situation where the man is there and he's controlling the money, controlling the income, saying what the woman needs to buy. So it's more than just the physical aspect of it. It's the fact that the women have to understand they go back in that situation. They're under that person's control, and especially if it's a situation where that person the man has the property in his name, then you're really could be facing a situation where you're really under against somebody's very strong authority or command. And these men feel they could keep doing what they want to do because, well, where's the woman going to go? If the woman doesn't have any recourse, if there's no resources as far as family or friends, it's going to likely be the shelter or the streets. But the thing about it is, I say this, if it's you're a woman out there and you're being beaten, repeatedly and persistently, and you have some income, and you have a chance to extricate yourself from that situation. Maybe you don't have the resources in terms of friends or family to go to, but even if you had to stay in a shelter and it was for, say, a month, you could save up a lot of that income you make and then perhaps maybe have the ability to get your own place depending on the income you have. So I think a lot of it is the fact that the women may not even want to stay for a week or two in the shelter, maybe given that it might be demeaning or demoralizing to her. So that I do understand that, but at the same time, people also have to understand, women especially, are in that situation. And if you procrastinate, and the longer you take to get out of it, to go through the means, even if it is a shelter for, say, a month or so, to save up the funds, to get on your feet, to get the money, to get that living situation, assuming you do have a regular, stable job, that the pain you're going to feel is going to be so much worse that you would endure from staying in that contentious, adverse situation longer, as opposed to making the effort to transition yourself into a place that might seem a little demeaning, and it might be you might be downsizing to some degree, so to speak, but it would be more advantageous and beneficial to you in the long run. And that's the message I want to get out there. And the thing about it is, I think sometimes you have, in certain instances, you have this psychological, this emotional manipulation that goes on in these situations where the women may actually be convinced by the men that they deserve it, that they deserve to be hit, that this is right. This is, I'm going to condone this. I was not doing the right thing. I was not being scrupulous. Therefore, I deserve to be hit. No, you don't deserve to be hit. That's not true. And if the guy tells you that, you know, it's obviously fallacious. It's something that is incorrect and not true. Hold on a moment, people. Yeah. Another aspect of this is significant as well, I think, because there could be some cases, if you're in a situation where this becomes redundant, so to speak, and you keep getting hit and hit, what's to stop this person that's doing this to you from eventually maybe killing you in some instances? It could be a perilous situation you might be getting yourself embroiled in. I mean, I think a lot of it too is people, women out there especially, you have to show yourself self-love. And you have to say, you know what, I don't deserve this. No, I'm better than this. I'm a good person, you know, basically most of them I'm sure are decent people that are getting hit. And even if they're not, they don't deserve to be hit repeatedly. This is, and I think it has to do with confidence and self-esteem as well. They leave their significant other, or they're like, well, gee, where am I? Will somebody else take me? Well, my answer is, in most cases, you actually will have the ability, I think. In most cases, somebody else will take you, even if it takes time, even if it takes laborious effort to find that other person. And even if you didn't get somebody else afterwards, you know what? It's sure as hell to me, it'd be better off with nobody, as opposed to being around somebody that obviously didn't love you because he was hitting you in some isolated cases, she. So I think that's how you have to look at it as well. A lot of it is because of a low self-esteem issue with a lot of people, and I think especially women, that they think that they just don't have it to move on. I think in some cases they're afraid to move on because they're afraid of the physical ramifications and repercussions too. Well, there's always, I'm sure, protective services that one can get involved in. You could get restraining orders. I know they don't always work 100%, but at least if you can get out of this situation, you could at least have a chance to not be involved in it anymore. If you leave the residence, you have a chance. But if you stay in the residence and keep enduring the abuse, you won't have a chance. So, I mean, that's basically, I don't know if I have too much more to say about this or not. I just wanted, to close with, and the fact is what happens too is you have some of these people, especially men, again, going back to the domineering thing, that some of them could be very domineering and controlling, to the point what they'll do is they will tell their woman, their significant other, what have you, that you need to eradicate this, friendship with this person. So what it does is, a lot of times you're in a situation like that, these guys especially, become very controlling. And not only you have to endure physical abuse, you are put under all these restrictions and stipulations are given to you that you didn't have before, and it could ruin your friendships. So there's other things that this could do in terms of damage. You understand it could also cause emotional, psychological damage. You could be taking something, enduring something from a person that may well be mentally ill, deranged even. You might, or even psychotic in some cases. And what can happen is you could become that way from dealing with it. Now, there's that, some of you have heard that it's called PTSD, post-traumatic syndrome disorder, something like that. A lot of it comes from people that were in, I guess they were in, the war, they were in the military. But I believe it could happen in other ways due to traumatic situations. It's the repercussions you're feeling emotionally from things that were very emotionally devastating, very traumatic. And these things can carry with you for a while. So, if you're in a situation like that, I mean, if somebody's going to hit you, one time and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I won't do it again." Many cases, it doesn't stop after one time, people. That thing can go on. It can go on repeatedly and persistently, and done with a lot of willful determination. So it's something, again, if you can get yourself out of it, it's better to do so earlier than procrastinate and wait. And you wait so long, it might be too late. You might be either physically incapacitated in some cases, and or maybe dead. So it's important to remember this, that your life is more important than trying to love somebody that obviously doesn't love you than by hitting you. So I think that's what we and you have to have self-love and love yourself in the process. That's paramount as well, I think. So that's basically it. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to get at as far as talking about domestic violence abuse. So anyway, people, well, that'll conclude this YouTube segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.